Economic Times to all of the viewers that the rumors surrounding the newspapers are not safe is totally untrue. It's unscientific. There is no rationale to it. The delivery agents of Economic Times papers, the Times of India papers, follow stringent safety norms, including the press. The press also observes all the health protocols. They follow it thoroughly, and therefore your papers are absolutely safe. So in case you're not getting your copy of the Economic Times or the Times of India, let your delivery agent know, or you can log on to www.wantmypaper.com and get your copy of this pink paper right away. But till then, I'm here to take you through all the top headlines that's there on the paper. So let's get on with it, and let me take you through the top 10 headlines on the Economic Times, starting with the Supreme Court has refused the ban on liquor sales during the lockdown. Yesterday, this particular ruling came about in the afternoon, but the Supreme Court has said that there is no ban on liquor sales, and the state should look at ways of providing liquor via online sales. Next up, we have US jobless rates that is spiked to 14.7%. You have government that will go ahead and borrow 4.2 lakh crore rupees more in FY21. They've attributed this particular hike in the borrowing due to 50% of that hike is due to COVID-19 outbreak that has ended up stalling the economy. Next up, we have Moody's has come out with a statement saying that the Indian economy will remain in deep freeze. Remember, Moody's last morning came out with a note where they said they're expecting near 0% growth coming in for our Indian markets as for Indian economy as well. You have Chinese companies that's in talks to test vaccine globally for coronavirus. You have the government that is saying that we now have to actually learn to live with the COVID-19. Maharashtra Chief Minister is saying that the cops in Mumbai and Maharashtra are overburdened. Nitin Gadkari is saying that there is no call on public transport as of yet. So a few days ago, we had him say in one of the addresses that they're planning to open public transport soon. So there you go, the clarification coming in that there's no call on the public transport yet. Ahmedabad AIIMS director takes stock of the situation in Ahmedabad. The AIIMS director is right there in the city. You have Wipro that gets a Labour Department notice over benching staff as well as salary cuts. So those are the top 10 headlines that's there on the Economic Times for you this morning. But let me move on to the top market headlines that's there on Economic Times. And risk-averse investors rush to safety debt products in the month of April. You have Franklin Templeton that issued unconditional apology to SEBI. You have Reliance Industries that gained 3.86% after as the street is cheering the progress in debt reduction plans. You had last evening also another company announcing, saying actually source-based information that they are also looking to buy stake in Jio platforms. Next, you have credit firms can retain ratings of borrowers who couldn't pay up in the month of March. And most brokerages stay bullish on HCL Tech after robust Q4 show. So those are the top 5 market headlines on the Economic Times. And from markets, let me move on to corporate front. On corporate front, you have Cognizant that's reported its Q1 revenue higher by about 3.5%. Following their earnings, they've also given out some sort of statement and outlook on the company. More on that ahead on the show. You have corporates that are seeking 15 lakh crore rupees in stimulus. Remember that India Inc. is anxiously waiting for government to come out with the stimulus plan to help them come out of the stalled economy, kickstart the economy, start businesses as well. Moving on to the aviation space, you have Indigo that's reverted to pay cuts from May onwards. You have Vista that will invest 11,367 crore rupees in Jio platforms. That's about approximately over 2% stake, 2.7 if I'm not mistaken, percent stake in the company. 3 or 2.3 to I stand corrected. And Uber is restarting in green and orange zones. So those are the top headlines coming in on your Economic Times this morning on the market corporate front as well. But let me get on board with the top headline and the top story that's there on the Economic Times. And here you go, this one for you, that the government may ready a negative list of prohibited activities. The strategy is aimed at opening up a bigger share of economy, preventing confusion at a ground level. Remember, there's a lot of confusion on what businesses can open in the green zone, in the orange zone, or in the red zone, and also your containment zone where most of the activities are totally barred. So this may actually help companies, also the state level authorities, to know which are the negative lists, which are the lists of things that are prohibited. But to talk more on this, we have my colleague Dipshika Shikawar from Economic Times joining us this morning. Good morning, Dipshika. Take us through this top story that's there on the Economic Times front page this morning.
So, as you said, the government is drawing up a negative list of activities. So, see, the whole idea is to allow opening up and allow economic activity to sort of go on. Now, when you do the selective opening, as the policy is right now in different zones, what is happening is the supply chain, which is a totally integrated process, that is getting disrupted. It's not fully functional, and that's hitting industry's operations. Also, the current guidelines give a lot of flexibility to the local administration, and which is leading to a lot of red tape. Now, as we know, Prime Minister Modi, in his meeting with the chief ministers, he asked them to take steps to, make India more attractive to foreign investors who may be wanting to shift out of China. Now, the policymakers in the government are very worried that this ground level confusion, is leading to return of Inspector Raj, and it could derail, the government's whole initiative to get investors to come and invest in the country. So now the fresh thinking is that you have negative list of activities which would be prohibited, and rest everything would be open. So there would not be any interpretational issues at the ground level, which would be leading to confusion and issues. So some of the things that could be, not allowed are, of course, large congregations, gatherings, or weekly bazaars, where there is possibility of crowd and not maintaining social distancing. So the idea is that, you don't allow gatherings even within workplaces and also public transport system. Public transport could be opened with alternate seatings and stringent social distancing, and, regular sanitization would, of course, be a precondition. So these are some of the things which are under deliberation. Of course, a final call would be taken closer to like May 15, May 17, as we know the lockdown ends. So before that, a fresh set of guidelines could come out.
All right, Dipshika, thank you for joining us this morning, giving us, taking us through the lead story on the Economic Times, that is, government may ready a negative list of prohibited activities. There you go. As Dipshika has reported in the newspaper as well, this is her story and she just spoke to us. It's written that the negative list also could include all activities that include public gathering. It could also mean your weekly bazaar, or most likely even the educational institution where you have gathering of large people. So this is what she's gathering up from her sources, that the government may ready a negative list of prohibited activities. But let me move on and let me get on to the top headline that's there on the front page of Economic Times. And there you go, here it is. The government will borrow 4.2 lakh crore rupees more in FY21. And this is a story that came late last evening. The total borrowing now is estimated to be at around 12 lakh crore rupees for the government. It's an indication that the fiscal deficit for FY21 will be much, much higher than the budgeted 3.5%. The additional borrowing comes at a time when the coronavirus pandemic and the resultant lockdown has led to a stall in the entire economic activity. This has also led to a sharp contraction in the tax revenue at a time of expenditure that's been increased to battle the pandemic. Why was this particular move needed? That's what Economic Times is actually saying in this particular article. They're saying this was needed because COVID-19 has led to rise in spending. They're saying tax revenues are under pressure as well. They're saying divestments are stalled and government is keen to boost the capex spend. What will this actually mean going ahead? They're saying that there's a chances of stimulus package, something the India Inc. is very, very anxiously waiting for. You have no monetization or deficit by RBI. They're saying less pressure on cutting the spending at this particular time. Higher fiscal deficit and bond yields will also harden. So that's the other top story that's there on the Economic Times, that the government will borrow 4.2 lakh crore rupees more in FY21. But let me move on now from the borrowing plan. Let me talk about what Goldman Sachs as well as Nomura are saying. And it is in the Times of India. It is on the Times business page. Here you go. This is the story that Nomura as well as Goldman Sachs are ringing the warning bell. They're expecting India's GDP growth to actually contract in FY21. What are they saying? To talk more on that, Moody's, like I mentioned earlier also during the headlines, that they are expecting zero growth in FY21 coming in for India. What Nomura is warning is they are saying likely of downgrade of sovereign rating. Also, you have Goldman Sachs is saying that the RBI will go ahead and cut rates by another 100 basis points in order to arrest the downfall in the economy. So there you go. Those are that's the top headline coming in after Moody's coming in yesterday and saying that India's outlook is negative now, and they're saying that we are expecting zero growth because of the stalled economy. You have Nomura and Goldman Sachs also that's come out, and they're saying that they are expecting India's GDP growth to actually contract in FY21. All right, let me move on now to some sort of good news coming in from coronavirus. Not exactly a good news, but can be a ray of hope. Let me move on now to flip the pages to Economic Times page 9, and here you go. This is the story here that you have, that the drug makers are in talk to test virus vaccine globally. So, this is the Chinese drug makers that are actually in talks to test the virus vaccine globally. Sinovac plans to do trials in regions with uncurbed spread, and this is one of the drug makers behind the most China's promising coronavirus vaccine candidate is in talk to conduct late-stage trials globally. But what does this mean? Can we already cheer in for this? Is this a ray of hope for us? We have my colleague Pankaj Podar joining us now to take us through the story. Pankaj, talk to us more on this particular story where Chinese drug makers are in talks to test vaccine globally.
Again, this becomes another promising candidate as far as, the drug for the vaccine for this particular coronavirus is concerned. Remember, globally, a lot of companies are doing it, but not that a lot of companies are, going ahead with excessive human trials. But this one, according to this report, now suggests that it's talking to WHO, is talking to various authorities globally. They want to go ahead with the phase 3 clinical trial. Till phase 2, you don't get data which is sufficient enough to prove that, the vaccine may work or not. So phase 3 is the clear one, and at least 500 to 1,000 patients, how, some of the earlier companies like Gilead have done, is probably something that, this company will also have to do. But the good thing is that, they are going ahead with all over the world vaccine testing. So generally the trend what has been is that you do vaccine or you do any kind of testing within your own country or the patients that are accessible to you, and then you go ahead to other regions as well. But they are trying to do an all-out vaccine test. Let's see, it's not a small process. It's a process which may take some time, about 1 month, 2 months time, quite easily. So let's wait and watch, but this becomes another promising candidate. Remember, you've had time and again different countries, different companies claiming that, they have got the vaccine, but human trials have been unsuccessful or are still going on. So let's wait and watch. This, again, looks to be another promising candidate, but phase 3 clinical trials, most important, which are yet to start. The good thing is they are doing it globally.
Definitely, we need to wait and watch for the outcome of this particular testing that will be done. That the Chinese company plans vaccine tests globally. The company will launch phase 3 clinical trials. So definitely some sort of ray of hope, if not all, between this gloom and doom of coronavirus. You have something to look forward to at least. But let's move on from coronavirus to some corporate earnings, and you have an IT major, that is Cognizant, that reported its Q1 earnings yesterday. There's a fall in the profit by about 17%, but the revenue was in line. The IT firm is definitely saying that they are expecting the margins to be under pressure. They will remain under 16 to 17%. They're also seeing a hit of about $50 to $70 million on back of the Maze attack, the Maze ransomware attack. They're saying that last week we announced to clients that we had contained the event, that is the Maze attack. And actually, on the contrary, we have found the tremendous amount of solidarity among our clients. And they're also saying many of them have been grateful with the manner in which we have dealt with this. This is the word coming in from the Cognizant CEO, Brian Humphries. He told this exclusively to the Economic Times post their Q1 earnings. So there you go. They've reported a drop in their profit. The revenues are in line, but definitely they are also saying the margins will remain under pressure, and so is the case for most of the IT companies. And also you have globally most of the IT companies' clients that are actually filing in for bankruptcy or contemplating bankruptcy due to this particular pressure that is coming in due to the coronavirus on the economy and the businesses world over. From one earnings now to another one, and this one is from the home ground, and it is ICICI Bank. There's all set to report its Q4 earnings today. We have my colleague Varun who's standing by to take us through what to expect from ICICI Bank when they report their Q4 earnings today. Varun, take it away.
Q4 numbers are looking quite decent for ICICI Bank as far as the brokers are concerned. NII should be coming in at around 8,000 crore based on our poll, versus last year 7,600 or last quarter's 8,545, so a mild decline sequentially. At the profit level, higher provisions this quarter for sure, that's what most brokers are saying. The PAT tally comes to around 3,000 crores versus last year's 969 or last quarter's 4,146. So a mild decline seen on the PAT level as well. Now the provisions, brokers are saying Vodafone will be one which will increase the provisions, as well as the COVID related provisions. Now because your earnings will be impacted, your NIMs also might suffer some impact. So 3.8 was the NIMs last quarter, we'll see what they are this quarter. Now some brokers definitely expect that there will be some slowdown in the loan growth, so that will be something we keep an eye out for. But the deposits, luckily for ICICI Bank, are quite intact. And in terms of news flow, there's been very little news flow about negative deposit situation at ICICI Bank. A lot of other banks have been having problems with that. So these are broadly the cues to look out for as far as today's numbers are concerned.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about the top story that's there on the Times of India. Here you go, that the train runs over 16 migrants sleeping on the tracks in the state. This happened yesterday in the morning, a very distressing news coming in. 16 of the migrant laborers were mowed down by an empty freight train in Maharashtra's Aurangabad district in early morning on Friday. While 14 of them succumbed on the spot, died on the spot, you had 2 of them succumb to their injuries later on. The workers were walking from Busulwal from Jalna to board a Shramik special train that would take them to their hometown in Madhya Pradesh. Railways have responded by saying that the locomotive pilot tried halting the train but was unsuccessful to achieve it. Madhya Pradesh government announced 5 lakh compensation for the deceased laborers' family. The NHRC has issued notice to Maharashtra Chief Secretary and the District Magistrate of Aurangabad on the particular incident. What exactly transpired and what happened over there was these laborers, these migrant laborers, were walking for 36 kilometers, and they actually rested post walking for those 36 kilometers, and meanwhile by that time you had an empty freight train come in and mow down these migrants. So definitely sad state of affairs coming in on back of the lockdown. And time for a break on this edition of the newspaper show. Stay tuned to ET Now for more news.
Special partner Karnataka Bank, your family bank across India.
In a world hit by an unprecedented pandemic, uncertainty is the new normal. But what will it take to reboot, reload and relaunch India's economy? India Revival Mission, a Times Network thought leadership initiative, will find the answers to guide the path from business continuity back to